Those of you who just joined, Ms. Arce or Ms. Ana Lucia will be leading the session for tonight, but the chat is live and I'll be monitoring that to speak with you either directly or to everyone. My role, aside from being co-host, facilitator, and chat person, is just to share a few things at the start of the meeting. And those relate to some of the expectations right now. I'm looking for some feedback too. So, Ms. Ana Lucia, if you could go to the next slide. So I think it's important to start this session with a reminder of our Colegio Maya and mission, or our Colegio Maya mission, and why we're all here together, what brings us and binds us, because we all believe in that, because we have committed to the mission statement. And I think it's really the lower portion that pertains to this meeting and our time together. And that is that the Colegio Maya community holds all its members, students, parents, teachers, and staff accountable for the success of every student. That's what we are all here for tonight. Do we have it all figured out? No, but we are committed to that goal of student success and being a committed, inclusive Maya community. So jumping down to these three columns, one of the things that we've been monitoring closely is the asynchronous workload. Understanding what our students are being asked to do outside of their synchronous time. The way that these numbers, and they are arranged, were brought together is from what our typical in-school elementary handbook homework guidelines would be, and then an approximation of what work in school would be like. So as you can see, for upper elementary, it is a range from 60 to 80 minutes, and higher end toward grade 5. This is to encapsulate any primary subject area like numeracy, literacy, inquiry, but this is also meant to include Spanish. This is meant to include the specialist pieces. What we're understanding is that some of our students are feeling the workload is too much. So if you have some of those concerns, I would like you to share them with me directly. As I said, you could do that into the chat, or you can do that in a direct email. One of the things that is happening is that some of the grade levels, and Spanish in particular, are using their synchronous time to go over some of those asynchronous assignments or have students work in the session. I know today I was with grade 4 at math, and the assignment, students were given almost 30 minutes to work on it in the session with myself and or Miss Sasha, and many of the students completed just about all of the work. So we are monitoring this, and we want to be aware of where people are at with the asynchronous work. It's also meant to include the IXL or the Lexia work, if that's on your child's list. Many of the things that you will see in the overviews talk about the must-dos versus the can-dos. And the must-dos are those core pieces that help us with our assessment and our reporting, and of course the student learning. The next piece, and why we're here tonight, is the social emotional learning. Ana Lucia is going to be speaking to you about things you can do at home, and I wanted to point out that in our sessions synchronously, the morning meetings has a social emotional learning part where we're working with students for around growth mindset, about self-awareness, about digital etiquette. It's also happening in the Warrior Times. It's a little more challenging in that session because it's large, but I also think that during the one-to-one sessions, our teachers are not only working on the academic side, but they're checking in with the students for the emotional piece and building those relationships so that when we're back on campus, that foundation is already there. And here with us tonight is our primary resource, Miss Ana Lucia, or Miss Arce, who is available to meet with children and parents, or both, when things arise, or to be proactive. Last but not least, communication and connection. My office hours have been great. I've been having some really valuable conversations with people because I can't see you walking down the hall or stopping in my office or meeting outside at the bus loop. Please make or take advantage of those daily office hours, 3 to 4:30 every day. Or if that's not a good time, send me an email and we'll set up an appointment. Last but not least, two important dates coming up. We are carrying on the Maya tradition for the elementary with the Star Student Assemblies. That's next week, where we recognize students in the elementary for demonstrating and carrying and upholding not only the Maya mission, but our values, such as being principled and reflective and collaborative. And then I wanted to point out, if you've been looking at the Maya calendar, the parent-teacher conferences were scheduled originally for the week of October 12th. So they were right around the 15th and the 16th. We have moved those back. We feel that we can utilize our Warrior Day on the 28th and also the 29th. So they will be Zoom conferences as they were last quarter. But please mark your calendars because I know everyone's trying to juggle a lot of different things. There will be more information coming out to you guys about how to sign up. There are 20-minute sessions with your classroom teachers, and the specialists and Spanish teachers will be available on an as-need or drop-in basis. So I know Ana Lucia is like, please stop, Ken, you can't pull me off the screen yet, but that's my part for now. Okay?
Thank you, Ken. And thank you. Sorry.
I'm going to move over to the chat because I see some things in the chat and we'll address them. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for being here tonight. I know that this time of day is, we're all ready to wrap up the day, but I feel like talking about this information is going to be a really nice way to end the day. And so when we talk about social emotional learning, this is something that we've heard Dr. Miller already started talking about. I remember the very first coming back to school welcome session that we had with her. She mentioned that we were going to address SEL as a school-wide initiative this year. And I wanted to share with you some of the key concepts for us to start building that common language, that common understanding of what social and emotional learning is, and how are some of the ways in which our community is already embracing these. So social and emotional learning is the process, and I love to make a stop when I talk about this definition in that word and make that an emphasis. It's a process. This is never ending. There's always room to grow, always room to learn new competencies in our social and emotional development. So it is the process through which children and adults, and I also like to make a pause here, this process needs to be joined by adults and children. We cannot expect children to just develop these competencies on their own. We need to be able to model them, to facilitate these competencies as our children are developing them. So it is the process through which children and adults understand and manage emotions, set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain positive relationships, and make responsible decisions. So there's a lot of words in this definition itself. There's a lot of competencies that might develop from this definition alone. And so one way to understand these in a more disseminated way would be to understand them in both social awareness and self-awareness, those competencies that we develop that are going to serve us in a social environment, and then those competencies that will help students become self-driven learners, independent and autonomous individuals that they will develop and that they will work on them by themselves. So for social awareness, we have everything that's related with social interaction, that empathy that we develop, knowing how to communicate our thoughts, and what a student's needs are, how they communicate that with their peers and with adults, how by learning how to communicate, they also learn to be active listeners and helping others, and also listening to what others' perspectives are in different situations, respecting others, social engagement, building a sense of community, and understanding that there is a responsibility in every single relationship that they build. And then self-awareness is everything related to the process, and this is something that we'll see in the next slide, with understanding ourselves, where we are, if we're present, what of our present are some of the things we can work with. And so when we talk about self-awareness, we talk about identifying, being able to identify thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. We also talk about having a perception of ourselves, is students being able to have and build a self-concept. And with that comes along self-confidence and self-efficacy. And how are these, how in this process, students are able to identify both their strengths and their areas of improvement. It is very interesting how children, when they go to upper elementary, they become much more aware of some areas of struggle that they might have. But there are some children that struggle with that process itself. Understanding that there is something that they're struggling with, it's a challenge in itself. So these are the two areas of social and emotional learning. And they come together, and children put them together in place in their daily life with the use and the help of executive functions. I know executive functions is something we've been talking about and hearing about for the past few years, but we need to understand that, executive functions do not only serve a student in their academic context. Executive functions help a student also in the social and personal context. So knowing how to organize information, both socially and from the information that they perceive themselves, is something that's going to be very important in this process of developing these competencies. So it's not only becoming self-aware and socially aware, but how do they come together and they blend with the use of executive functions so that they are successful individuals in this world, that are not only successful independently, but that they can contribute to a community that they are part of. And it can be a wide world community, it can be a school community, it can be your home community. And so before we start going deeper in the presentation, I want to make a pause and go through an exercise, because some of the efforts that have been put in place already by our faculty members is that they are implementing social and emotional best practices, and they are plugging them in their everyday life. And so we have, for example, fourth graders that are taking deep breaths every morning. We have Mr. Travis, who is encouraging our students to do daily affirmations, and all of these efforts and little practices are helping us build all of these competencies that we see on the screen. And so I want to start by making a quick social and emotional practice with you this morning. This is something that I've done with faculty members, with the previous group of parents, and that I know that some teachers are already practicing with kiddos in their Zooms. And if you have a chance to do this at home, it's going to be a nice way to just re-energize your child if they need a little break within the day. So bear with me and engage with me in these activities. We're going to give our body some energy, so we are engaged in this presentation. So the way we're going to do it is follow my lead, please. We're going to rub our hands like these. So rub, 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 rub. And I'm going to count to 3, and we're going to open. 1, 2, 3. Now clap. We're going to place that energy in us. Let's do it one more time. Rub, rub, rub. Open. 1, 2, 3. Clap. And place that energy in you. Aren't you energized? I know I am, and I am ready to continue this presentation. This is a nice break that you can practice with your children at home. I know some of our 5th graders might say like, hey mom, hey dad, why do I need to do this? But it's just a way of telling our children at home that it is okay to take a break. and re-energize when they need it. So even if it's through these small exercise or through another practice, it is important that they know that it is okay to take that break when they need it. And while doing an exercise like these, they do bring energy to themselves, and it regulates their mind and their body, and they are ready to learn. So as we go into the next slide, we're going to be talking about self-management. And when we talk about that, it is important that we talk about these other two key concepts: self-awareness. I'm sorry, I'm just going to move you on my screen. Self-awareness and self-management. We've talked about self-awareness and that ability to understand one's personal emotions, thoughts, and behaviors, but it's also about understanding how we need to manage those, because our behaviors impact us and other people. And children have a hard time understanding these. They experience emotions in an intense way. Upper elementary students have a better understanding of these behaviors because they are better at understanding social cues. So, excuse me, I'm just so as we build self-awareness in students, we need them to understand these emotions so that they're able to express what their needs are. When children are able to express their needs, they are able to process and come up with ideas and alternatives and problem solve. Problem solving leads to having a growth mindset, which is something that we are very dedicated to build in Colegio Maya. That understanding that it is okay to make mistakes, that mistakes are opportunities for growth, that these opportunities for growth will build their self-awareness competencies. And knowing that, and only by knowing that first, they will be able to manage. They cannot manage something they don't know, something they can't grasp, something that is not tangible for them. So we need them to go through the process of understanding their emotions and thoughts and how do they go hand in hand with their behaviors. And only then they will be able to learn self-management strategies. Self-management is the ability to successfully, and if I might add, independently regulate one's emotions. With young learners, this is something that takes time. But with upper elementary students, this is something that we start expecting. Students that are able to advocate for themselves and say, we need a break. Or maybe understanding that they feel uncomfortable and they might not know how to self-manage, but they know that there is a degree of them feeling not okay to learn. They will come to a point where they effectively manage challenging situations like stress, anxiety, social interactions that might sound or be stressful, and they will be able to have the ability to set and work towards personal goals, personal and also academically. All of these is intertwined within self-management. And a key aspect of this process is understanding that as adults, it is our role to co-regulate before we ask for self-regulation. We need to model these behaviors, and it will be better and easier for us to help a child self-manage and self-regulate once we as adults are self-regulated. If we are not, it becomes clash of titans, and that's where we start struggling and creating tensions in those relationships at home. So it is very important that we understand these processes. We're going to talk about 3 practical tips that we have for you today that you can start implementing at home that will help your child develop self-regulation skills. The first one is creating a calm corner. And I know I have a few of my stars in that Flipgrid video that in that Flipgrid. A couple of weeks ago, we shared a Flipgrid for students to upload videos of their calm corners. What were some of the things that they had there, and what were some of the things that helped them self-manage? And it was a great way for students to understand and get some ideas of what were some things they could include in their calm corner. So a calm corner is a place, a cozy place, corner in your house that you dedicate for students, for your children to step back and go to a place where they can understand what they're experiencing, practice a strategy to self-regulate and be ready to learn or to engage in a family activity that you were doing or just enjoying. When we talk about creating a specific corner for these, the intention behind it is because the environment can be conducive of what we're looking for. Excuse me, a notification appeared. And so, as I was saying, environment can be conducive of what we're looking for, of what we're expecting for. And so how do we implement these in our home? Well, first, you go through the process of selecting where would be a good place, where would your child feel comfortable retrieving a little and understanding what they're experiencing. And after that, you create together the expectations. What is this place for? Is it for playing? Is it for relaxing? No, this is a place where you come to understand and regulate yourself. And so those expectations need to be clear so children know how and when to use it. Some of the things that we can include in a calm corner are pillows or lighting that makes it special and cozy, books that talk about emotions, books that talk about regulation strategies, books that are of their interests. You know, sometimes they might just relax by reading about their favorite book or journaling a little. Another idea of something to include are signs and flashcards. Signs that help them understand their emotions. Sometimes for children, it is very difficult to name their emotions. And so having flashcards and posters with specific face gestures or emoticons or something that they can associate with what they're feeling really helps them, that having that visual cue. We can also we can, as you can see in the picture, there is a poster that talks about some of the strategies. It is good. It's like having a menu of the strategies that they can pull from and decide what is something that could help them feel better in that moment. And then the last one is having something that will be a sensory input, having some fidget toys or textures or temperatures that can help them connect and allow their bodies to be present and ready to learn again, engage in learning again. And what are the steps when using the calm corner? So first, I said introducing it, creating the expectations, then prompting our students to use it when needed, identifying when they need it. Second step would be identifying the emotion that they are experiencing, naming it, labeling it. Something that I find really interesting of upper elementary students is that, for example, when we were back on campus and they would come to my office, visit because there was something really intense they were experiencing, they could tell me, because they are upper elementary students, they could tell me what the problem was. They would describe in detail what the situation was. But when it came to the point where I asked them, well, how did that make you feel? Usually the response I get from the children is good or bad. And we want to avoid those generic responses. We want our students to become adults that are assertive and healthy. And so in order for them to become that, they need to be able to label their emotions, understanding that it's different feeling angry than feeling frustrated, feeling annoyed than feeling tired. These are completely different emotions that they can manage in different ways. So labeling the emotions is going to be super important for them. Then the third step would be deciding what strategy is something that will help them. What are some examples of regulation strategies? Contact with nature, soothing music, sensory input, as I was mentioning before. In the case of some students that might have aggressive behaviors, it's important for us to redirect those aggressive behaviors, that they know that it's not okay to yell at mom or dad or their siblings. It's not okay to hit, but it is okay for them to express and have an output for that anger. So can they hug a pillow really tight? Yes, they can. Can they apply pressure to that pillow? Yes, they can. That is something that would be acceptable. So teaching these strategies will be important. Another strategy is getting creative. So having some art tools at hand for them to get creative that might calm them down. I know that in one of the videos, a little girl added music in the background. So having music in the background is something that would serve them well. A cozy blanket, reading a book is a good strategy. Writing about what they were feeling is another strategy. All of these strategies are going to be there in this place for them to use it, practice it, and then being able to return to what they were doing. After or even before, a little before returning to what the activity that they were doing, you can talk about what happened with your children. Your children are able to will become insightful by having these reflective conversations. So moving along, I want to show you a video of one breathing strategy that this parent is engaging with her girl. And so let's take a look at it.
Hello, my name is Bryson, and this is my mother, Julie. And today we're going to teach you a really easy breathing exercise on how to actually get your child to just take a moment to breathe. And this is a really fun way. You will need a tool, and this is called the Hoberman sphere. They come in so many sizes. Yeah, well, it's a sphere, so it's a circle. Okay. But it definitely comes in different sizes. Sometimes they're like so large that you can make it as tent. Yes, it's so big. So what do we do, Braxton, with this? Okay, so you can throw it with like that, but right now we're gonna use it as breathing exercises. Mm-hmm. So what we're gonna do, if you have one at home, or you can buy one, mm-hmm. and you'll go like this. Okay. Mm-hmm. Let me see. So you can just have the child hold the ball in your hand, the sphere, and as they inhale, they're going to see the ball getting bigger, and as they exhale, they'll see smaller. This is something that you can do and hold, so watch it, Braxton. And inhale. I'll hold it for you, and you can inhale. It really helps a lot. Cool. Now you should try.
So as you can see, this little girl is practicing a breathing strategy. Sometimes when students use these kinds of objects, they can use them in the wrong way. So we see a parent modeling the behavior, we see a parent engaging in this co-regulation dynamic, and we see a little girl that's saying, this really helps. This really does allow me to feel calmer. So these are some of the breathing strategies that we might think about implementing and that we really encourage you to do and try at home. If creating a calm corner is something that is not accessible for you at home, I highly recommend having a visual, something that will allow you to check in with your child and see how they're doing. If it's in terms of emotions, like you see the little bar in the bottom that has different faces showing different expressions, or if it's in terms of energy. Children are being asked to do so many things because of the current context we are in. And so having these battery scale, you can ask your child, how is your energy level? Is there something that you need to feel re-energized? Can we make a pause? Or maybe if your child is over-energized and they need something to calm a little bit down. Another practical tip is creating a scale so that we can teach students to identify how severe is the problem they are experiencing. We might hear students telling us, I am too tired, or they might have a meltdown because they are too tired. So how do we break down? How do we understand that meltdown? How big is it? Is it like a thunder? Is it like a rain? Is it like a storm? Is it like a thunder? Having these visual cues helps students that struggle putting trouble and thoughts into words. And so providing these is going to help us first explain and communicate what the need is, and it's going to help the student also know when they need support from an adult. They don't always need intervention from us. So knowing that ahead of time is something that's going to be useful for them. Understanding that when it is a rainy storm, yes, I might need help, but it's a different kind of support that the one I need when it's a tornado storm. And when it might be, and you might want to add, just like it says at the bottom, if it's just a windy day, you don't really need adult support. This is something you can handle on your own, and encourage them to feel autonomous and independent in that self-regulation process. The next one is creating agreements at home. And I know that this might be challenging because of the current situation, but having a sit down with our children and understanding what their needs are and what our needs are as parents. You know, there might be working parents here in the room. And so saying, you know, mom and dad, yes, are at home, but we need some time to get our work done. So these are moments in the day where we can connect and check in. Those are the opportunities for you to monitor and know where your child is in their learning. And it's also an opportunity for them to catch up with you and just connect with you. So creating those agreements is going to be the first step. These has to be a collective agreement. A conversation that is held at home. If it is something top down that as parents we just give the children, it's something that they might feel a little resistant about. And so we really encourage that collaboration and coming up with the agreements together. Then the next one is keeping it simple, positive, and very specific, creating phrases that you can easily refer to. In this age, we recommend for the agreements to be somewhere around 5 to 8 agreements, something that will allow you to just go back and say, hey, remember our agreement is da 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 da. Something that is also catchy. Catchy phrases really help with agreements. Making it visible, having a poster or putting it on your fridge or having it written on a whiteboard is going to allow for the interaction and the prompt to the agreement to be something that is not hindering the relationship between you and your child. It's something you agreed upon that is there on your wall. And so whenever you need to reference it, you just say, hey, take a look at the poster. That's our agreement. It's not me telling you what to do. It's what we together agreed upon. And then the fourth one is celebrating the opportunities worth celebrating. You know, whenever there's a moment of independence, a moment where your child is following the agreement you created, that's something definitely worth celebrating, making it a big moment, making it something that you encourage them to continue to practice. And then the fifth one is definitely reviewing. This is an ongoing process. What we set up today might not be working tomorrow or in 2 weeks. So we need to step back and say, okay, let's talk about it. It doesn't seem like it's working. What can we adjust? What can we tweak so that it's better for you? So as we go into the role of the parent, it's very important that for us to understand that any effort that we try to put in place will not work if this bucket isn't filled. This is the emotional bucket. The emotional bucket of a student is very important. They need to feel worthy. They need to feel that they belong. They need to know that they are loved, even if they are showing behaviors that are challenging for the adults around them. And so we really encourage moments of connection. So dedicating a moment to connect with your child within the day, that being early in the morning, or maybe as you wrap up the day before they go to bed, having a moment of quality time, being able to talk to your child and understand their interests, what their struggles are, what is something that they need from you as a parent, is something that we really encourage, so that anything that you do within the day will fall under the spectrum of I love you. And this is what's important, that what we are doing here is because I love you and because I care for you. And so having those moments in the day is going to be super important. The role of the parent under the current circumstance is stretched out thin. And so these are 4 key aspects that will help you understand that role better. We are all asking ourselves, how much do I intervene? How much do I give them independence? Do I need to be there all the time? They need me, they ask for me. So how do we set those boundaries? And so I want to encourage you to think of yourselves as gardeners that are taking care of plants. We are taking care of plants. Those students are like our little plants, and we are helping them grow and come to show us their full potential. And for that to happen, we're going to, I'm sorry, I'm just moving my screen. We are going to encourage 4 behaviors. The first one is to observe. Observe if there are patterns, observe if there are needs that your child is not necessarily voicing out, observe if there are different, some things within the structure of the day that you might need to adjust, just observing. But something important is observing without judgment. It's almost like, it's like how you take care of a plant. You just see it grow. You don't tell it, hey plant, you're not growing fast enough. You know, you just observe it, just like you do with a little plant. Then the next concept is providing the right conditions. For a plant to grow, we need to place it in the right location so that it will receive the proper light, so that it will receive enough water, sunlight, or shade, depending on the type of plant that it is. And what that means for our student is that we are going to create environments that are conducive to what we are expecting. That goes hand in hand with what we were talking about, the calm corner, but also it's an important moment for us to take a look at what is the learning setup, what is the learning environment that we are creating for children. And just like we will have, I hope, a place where they can go to calm down, they will be able to have a place for them to learn, knowing that that is the appropriate place for them to have resources at hand and to perform the best that they can. By having the resources that they will need at hand, that is one of the ways in which they will become independent and self-driven learners. The third one is knowing that their basic needs are met. And so we already talked about the emotional bucket. That's one of the basic needs. We also are going to talk about what are the physiological needs that we are identifying in our students. We know that students are tired. We know that they're being asked to be on screens longer than they were used to in the past. So knowing what are some of the things that they might need, their bodies might need to be okay and ready to learn will be important. There are students that need to be, that dehydrate really easily. And so knowing that they need to have a bottle of water at hand, they need to have a quick snack for them at hand, or a standing desk so that if they need to move around, all of these needs need to be attended to for them to be ready to learn. Studies have shown us that, recent studies show that our brains are being overstimulated for being in front of a screen, and we also are more involved, and we receive constant feedback from the screen about our own interactions. So this might be a little overwhelming, and knowing that our kids need for us to stop and take care of those needs will be important in their process of growing and learning. And then the last one is adjusting. This by any means is the least important. Adjusting along the way is needed all the time. And we will be able to adjust appropriately only if we observe without judging and observe what the needs of our students are. And making the proper adjustments along the way is something that we are here to help you with. So if there's anything in particular that you would like to discuss, that you're identifying in your child, let us know. And we will definitely gather resources and our thoughts together so that we can adjust and help you adjust at home so that your students so that your children can learn better. And I want to finish with this quote by Maria Montessori, going hand in hand with the comparison that we were doing to the gardener. The best educators, and that includes parents as well, behave as do good gardeners and cultivators towards their plants. And so I encourage you to let us know if there is anything you would want our help and support with. We are here to support you in this process, but it is important that we can count on that partnership that we are creating with you as parents, because students are being asked to do so many new things nowadays. So I'm going to end by asking if anybody has a question. I haven't been monitoring the chat, but I know Ken has. So if there's anything you want to bring up from there, or just this is an opportunity for you to do it out loud.
I just want to add, thank you for some of the conversations that have been happening, not for some, but for those that have been happening. In the chat, I just added a Google Chrome extension. It's called the PE Geek, but the actual extension is called Move. And I've been using it a lot because I am on screen quite a bit. And whatever you set the time for, it sends you a message, and you can't do anything, or you're not at least supposed to, until you do the activity, which could mean, you know, do some shoulder shrugs, do a wall sit, do a plank. You know, there's a couple of different ones, and I found that it's definitely got me moving. And I know some of the kids in the upper elementary are using it. So that might be one way. And especially as Marjorie pointed out with rainy season, can't just run out as much. So you might want to check it out.
Thank you everyone for your time, for coming to this session. Definitely understanding what are some of our students' social and emotional needs is something worth taking a look at, because we are invested definitely in the academics, but we have children in our lives that are not only brains and not only academic, but people. They are becoming people, and wonderful people, if I might add. And so any effort that we put in place to support them becoming successful, independent, autonomous, mature, self-driven learners is something that we will continue to take care of.
And Ms. Ana Lucia, thank you very much for putting this together for us. The slides will be shared, correct?
Yes, they will.
The other thing to mention, which is part of the resources piece, is the Padlet that's been created by Ms. Ana Lucia. She's curated a lot of articles and resources, and that, here it is on the screen. Okay, great. So this will be something where you can go to find specific resources that relate to what you may be experiencing at home. And that'll be posted as well. I think eventually it'll be living on the website and continually updated. Okay. Again, I started with, if you have questions about asynchronous workloads or our synchronous schedule, please feel free to reach out to me. We have been talking as a elementary school about how we can make adjustments now that we head into week 6. So thank you, everybody. Let me see. Thank you, Margarita. You've added something here. I'll respond to you, okay?
Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, thank you.
Bye, thank you.
Margarita, if you just...
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, thank you.
Whatever, Google Hangout.
No.
Thank you, everybody.
Are we going to have meetings like this every month?
Well, we would like to have a variety of topics, and I think one would be good.
Okay, I'm just hoping to see the day in next year when we're gonna have to talk about making adjustments. Not everybody adjusted to this, to make the adjustments when children want to say, I don't want to get up. I have my own desk here. I'd like to see that, how we're gonna deal with that.
I think everyone's going to want to be back on campus, running around, seeing their friends.
I hope so, but
being in the Innovation Hub, being on the brand new track that Maya's got, visiting their friends in the new ECC.
Let's hope that it's not going to be in 2022. Let's just hope it's going to be 2021.
Okay, Pepe. We have that relationship, everybody. So, staying positive. Thank you. There's still a few people here. Should I just respond in the chat? I want you to feel free that, you know, go to those doctor's appointments, take the breaks when you need. Our core classes are the most important thing. So I can't speak for the secondary, but I can speak for our undergraduate, you know, and we want the kids participating in sports. Okay, thanks for the workload comment. Margarita, I will send you a separate email, okay? Anybody else? Okay, Ana Lucia, thank you. Go be with your daughters and your husband and have a good night. I hope you guys and Rafaela are doing okay. Pepe, we'll see
Yes,
you.
coming back next week, I mean.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Because the airport opens tomorrow, so that's fine. So
That'll be great.
Yeah.
All
see you
right.
guys. Thank
See
you.
Thank you.